You are a small-time lawyer drowning in the shallow end of a very deep pool. 35 years old. Technically competent. Not even remotely close to having your name etched in granite above a lobby door. The financial pressure isn't just squeezing you, it's strangling you. Medical bills for your parents stack up like losing lottery tickets. Your kid's tuition is past due. And the so-called American dream? It's become a weight you carry in your chest every time you unlock your office door. Then the universe dangles a lifeline. A medical malpractice suit against a pharmaceutical titan falls into your lap. This is the case. The 40% contingency on a multi-million-dollar settlement. Your golden ticket out of the gutter into a life where you're finally the son your parents bled for. You throw everything you have at it, your hours, your sleep, what's left of your confidence. It doesn't matter. The corporation fields an army of attorneys whose hourly rate eclipses your annual income. They dismantle your case with cold, surgical efficiency. You don't just lose, you get humiliated on a technicality so embarrassing the judge calls you a clown. In open court. On the record. The fallout is total. Your reputation in this city is now worth less than the paper your law degree is printed on. No one will touch you, not even for a traffic violation. And then the hospital calls, right on schedule, asking for payment. Now. Not eventually. Now. You stare at the bills. You stare at a bank account that reads like a flat line on a monitor. Desperation has a taste, and it is deeply, profoundly bitter. That's precisely when an old colleague resurfaces, a man who 2 years ago was just as washed up and hollow-eyed as you. Now he drives something that belongs in a museum and wears suits that silently scream criminal money. He takes you to dinner and makes the kind of offer that certain men hear and certain men are smart enough to refuse. He wants you to work for some businessmen down in Mexico. The kind of businessmen who resolve internal disputes with blades rather than boardroom mediators. The kind whose HR department has a body count. He tells you the compensation is staggering, more in a month than a senior partner at a white shoe firm earns in a year. All you need, he says, is flexibility. Your conscience screams. Then you think about the hospital, your kid's tuition, the photo of your father's face hollowed out by illness, and the screaming stops. You lie to your wife with a straight face that frightens even you. An international consulting gig, you tell her. Boring. Safe. Completely above board. You kiss your family goodbye with a stone in your gut, climb into your colleague's car, and drive toward whatever this is. The irony is grotesque enough to choke on. Your parents crossed borders, sacrificed decades, and swallowed indignities just to get you into this country. And here you are, racing back toward everything they ran from. The compound doesn't match the picture your imagination painted. No bullet-pocked concrete, no snarling guards. What greets you instead is a pristine, climate-controlled office with mid-century modern furniture and the soft hum of expensive air conditioning. It's cleaner, sharper, than anything you ever called a workplace back home. They lay out the house rules. Just 2. Rule 1. You don't need to prove your client is innocent. You only need to prove the state is too inept to make the charges stick. Rule 2. You never, under any circumstances, turn down a client. Your first assignment turns out to be almost insultingly mundane. Tax optimization, asset structuring, hypotheticals that begin with, let's say a company finds itself in a certain situation, They pay you 10 times your standard rate for reciting Legal 101 over coffee. The whole operation is so civilized, so bureaucratically smooth, that you begin to wonder if you've been catastrophically wrong about these people. Maybe they're just aggressively unconventional entrepreneurs. A week slides by. Most of it is corporate hand-holding and coaching witnesses on the elegant art of selective memory. How to say "I don't recall" instead of "I didn't do it." How to reframe direct knowledge as hearsay. How to look a jury in the eye while building a wall of plausible ambiguity. Easy money. No apparent risk. You're 35, and you can smell the finish line. Then a special client walks in. He isn't here for tax advice. He wants you to forge evidence and run interference on the trial of a major cartel kingpin. And this is the moment your ego decides to take the wheel. You say no. Why risk everything? You've made enough clean consulting money to wipe out your debts. You don't need this particular headache. So, with the confidence of a man who still believes he operates in a world governed by rules, you decline. The man looks at you with eyes like polished glass. Then he stands, and he leaves without a single word. You've just made a catastrophic mistake. You forgot Rule 2. 5 minutes later, your colleague walks in. He's brought company, 2 men who look assembled from raw iron and bad intentions. Before you can process what's happening, a fist connects with your jaw like a freight train. Then your ribs meet steel-toed boots in a series of precise, methodical introductions. It is not a brawl. It is a professional demonstration of consequences, delivered until the room goes black. You come back to consciousness gasping, drenched, zip-tied to a chair. Your colleague leans over you and calls you ungrateful, calls you a fool who doesn't understand the hierarchy. And as his voice rings through your fractured skull, the reality of your situation snaps into focus with brutal clarity. You walked into hell voluntarily, and hell doesn't have a checkout. To ensure your permanent cooperation, they confiscate your passport, destroy your phone, and erase every thread connecting you to a life outside these walls. Then a photograph slides across the table toward you. Your wife, your child, at a park, laughing in the afternoon light. Your colleague smiles, the kind of smile that would unsettle the devil himself, and explains very quietly that the next person ending up in a hospital won't be you. The message is complete. You are no longer a person making choices. You are an asset on the organization's ledger. A week later, still wearing bruises in shades of purple and green, you receive your first real case. A high-ranking capo needs to stay out of a U.S. Supermax. The goal isn't acquittal. Nobody's pretending he's innocent. The goal is narrow and specific. Keep him in a local facility where he owns the guards, not in a federal cage where he becomes just another numbered jumpsuit. The Department of Justice doesn't negotiate. It doesn't flinch. This is a losing case before the first gavel drops. But then you remember the photograph. So you shake hands and say the words, "Consider it handled." And you begin to build something out of nothing. You pick the strategy apart like a surgeon. Jurisdiction. Extradition treaties. International human rights frameworks. You find a crack, a procedural thread so obscure it's barely a legal theory, and you pull it. Somehow, against everything rational, it holds. The extradition is denied. The capo stays on home soil. You've just done the impossible. Word travels fast in organizations built on power. Suddenly, you're not just a liability they're managing. You're a resource they're protecting. The work piles up. each case more treacherous than the last. Each victory cementing your reputation inside the machine. You stop shaking under the table. You start winning with something that, from a distance, resembles confidence. Then comes the DEA agent. He walks into your workspace posing as a mid-level money mover with routine compliance questions. But something about him is wrong. Too clean, too steady, too careful with his words. And it doesn't take long before the mask slips and the truth surfaces between you like a flare. He's been embedded for 18 months. He has enough evidence to build a case that could take down multiple layers of the organization. But he needs the top. He needs the boss. And for that, he needs you. He asks you to become his informant. Feed him the information. Help him close the net. You tell him he's insane. You tell him that cooperating means death. Not just yours, but your family's.
He listens to all of it, nods slowly, and asks just one thing. What's the alternative? You have no answer that isn't a lie. The surveillance begins. Months of quiet extraction, documents photographed, account numbers recorded, conversations memorized and transcribed in the dead of night. You are terrified every single moment. Every handshake feels like the last. Every room you walk into might be the one you don't walk out of. And then your cover shatters. The organization's internal security has been watching. They know there's a leak. The noose is tightening, and you're standing at the center of it. Your supervisor, the man who brought you here, who had you beaten, who showed you the photograph of your family, pulls you into a room and lays it out in plain language. Someone inside is feeding the DEA. He suspects the agent. He wants confirmation. He wants a name. And he wants you to be the one to deliver it. This is the worst moment of your life.
Because you understand, with horrible, nauseating clarity, that there is only one path forward. Not the righteous path, not the clean one, the only path. That night, the agent finds you in the shadows behind the compound and speaks first. He already knows. He's known for weeks that this moment was coming. He tells you that when this operation was built, everyone involved understood one of them wouldn't make it out. He made his peace with that. He chose this. And now he's asking you, not begging, not manipulating, asking you as one person to another to use him, to hand him over, to let him be the proof of your loyalty so that you can finish what he started. He says, "You're the only one who can end this. Don't waste it." The following night plays out like a nightmare you can't wake from. The supervisor moves first, weapon drawn, orders barked. The agent reacts with the instincts of someone who was always ready for this.
He grabs your arm, reads the setup as an ambush, and tries to pull you toward the exit. His face holds zero doubt. He believes you are both on the same side. His only concern, in that final moment, is getting you out alive. You break his grip. You step backward, slowly, deliberately, toward the other side. "I'm sorry," you say. The words land on him like a verdict. The shock on his face, the fraction of a second in which he fully processes the weight of what you've done, is something you will carry in your chest until your last breath. In that stillness, the sicarios move. They take him. They disappear into the dark. And you know, with absolute and unforgivable certainty, what is waiting for him. The supervisor brushes dust from his lapel, looks at you with something resembling approval, and says, Welcome to the family. You won. You're alive. You have your promotion. You watch the taillights of the car dissolve into the night, and you understand, with the kind of clarity that only comes from crossing an irreversible line, that you are something worse than a criminal. You are a man who let a decent human being die for him. The betrayal opens every door. They take you to the main estate. You expected a warlord. What you get is a slight elderly man tending orchids with the quiet focus of someone who has never once been afraid. He looks up, studies you, and smiles. He says he appreciates pragmatic people, people who understand when to sacrifice a pawn to protect the king. He tells you that you have a very bright future. That future arrives in Italian silk suits and climate-controlled offices. Over the next 5 years, you become what the organization calls a plumber, the person who fixes the financial infrastructure before it leaks. Lawsuits disappear. Money flows through layers of respectable shell companies and emerges clean on the other end.
Legal loopholes are engineered where none appeared to exist. To every government agency watching, you are a successful, respectable attorney. To the organization, you are indispensable. The boss begins to treat you like a son. The day everyone has been dreading and you have been engineering finally arrives. The boss is in handcuffs. The federal charges are a litany so severe the courtroom feels airless when they're read aloud. International narcotics trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering on a scale that rewrote the definition of the crime. The room is packed. The boss sits beside you at the defense table, oozing the smug certainty of a man who has never once faced a consequence. You stand and deliver the performance of your career. You dismantle the prosecution's chain of custody. You reframe their witnesses as unreliable. Your voice carries righteous, perfectly calibrated indignation through every argument. The jury wavers. The judge looks ready to toss the case. The boss glances at you with that arrogant, satisfied smirk, the look of a man already planning his dinner reservation. And then the prosecutor rises and requests permission to enter new evidence. Delivered this morning. Anonymous source. A black ledger. High-definition recordings. A forensic accounting trail that logs in minute-by-minute detail 5 years of narcotics transactions, bribes to public officials, and confirmed contract killings. The room goes silent. The boss turns the color of bleached bone. He looks at you, waiting for the objection, the motion, the legal explosion that will stop this. You adjust your tie. You say nothing. The understanding moves across his face in stages. First confusion, then the dawning horror of a man who realizes the only person with access to that safe has been standing 2 feet away from him the entire trial. He thought you were saving him from a cell. You were. He's not going to a cell.
The prosecutor is requesting the death penalty. As the boss is dragged out of the courtroom screaming, your supervisor yanks out his phone in the gallery, hands shaking with rage, and calls the cleanup crew. The order is short and absolute. The wife and kids. Immediately. The voice that answers belongs to a federal agent. The crew was neutralized hours ago. Your family is in a safe house, warm and untouched. Because here is what you've carried alone. The truth you couldn't speak out loud for 5 years. The DEA agent was never a casualty of your cowardice. He was the architect of his own sacrifice. From the first moment he identified you as a potential informant. He knew he was building toward a moment of no return. He planned for it. He chose it. He asked you, in that alley, not to betray him, but to complete him, to take the mission he started and drag it across the finish line, no matter what it cost either of you. You didn't destroy him, you fulfilled his last instruction.
That doesn't make the memory clean. It will never be clean. But as the empire burns, raid after simultaneous raid, every C-suite criminal in the organization arrested in the same hour, you make your peace with what it meant. The men who ordered his death are headed for lethal injection. The rest will decompose in federal Supermax cells over the remainder of their natural lives. The cartel has been erased. By every legal standard, you should be among them. 5 years of money laundering, 5 years of buried evidence, 150 years minimum. But justice, like everything else in this story, is pragmatic. You handed them the apex predators. In exchange, they release the instrument they used to catch them. You leave through a back exit. A black van is waiting with tinted windows. Inside, a manila envelope contains new passports, new social security numbers, and a completely fabricated history.
You're being relocated to a flat, frozen state in the middle of the country, the kind of place people end up in when they need to stop being findable. You step inside and fold your arms around your family. The engine turns over. The city shrinks behind tinted glass. For the first time and as long as you can remember, you do not check your mirrors. You are no one now. No name worth hunting. No reputation worth destroying. No debts written in blood. You are anonymous, invisible, and utterly free. And obscurity, it turns out, is the most expensive thing you've ever owned.